Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Hey, viperkeeper here with a special announcement. I have two things to discuss really briefly. As you know, I don't often have a segment that just sort of has me blabberating on camera. Usually I'm blabberating behind camera, but I want to announce for those people that are interested, Google and, well, YouTube is owned by Google, as many of you might know, is now offering sponsorships for the channel, sort of to counter Patreon and such. You know, I've got over 750 videos. I'm not interested in moving them elsewhere right now because if YouTube does something I don't like, I just might delete them all and close the channel down and that sort of thing. That's not even on the horizon, but they're offering sponsorships for $4.99 a month. You can sponsor the lair and get some exclusive content that nobody else gets, as well as a more direct route to ask questions and stuff. This way, many of you who have been asking about how you can sponsor the activities here in the lair and keep them going. As you know, this costs quite a bit of money to keep afloat, as well as the time, which, you know, there's no compensation for, because I would do this anyway without the YouTube channel. But you'll see a sponsor button appear on the feed right next to the subscribe button, and this will allow you to sponsor the channel and get exclusive content like videos from the webcam in the room that people never ever see the light of day. Lori and I don't always carry cameras with us. You know, a lot of times I'm working by myself in here, and I need both hands and don't have a camera running. Well, that's where the webcam comes into play. It captures some very interesting stuff that I will make available exclusively to those who subscribe. So look forward to sometime soon when that goes live on the channel. The second thing I want to talk about is a product that I have now. A little tough to see, but these are called razor gaiters. These are protective snake gaiters to prevent accidental bites on my lower leg. As you know, Elvis does have this liking for my lower extremities. It protects the instep. There are plastic panels in here meant to stop most strikes and bites. I've tested them with fangs that I've had shed and tried to push them through. It is quite impervious to most fangs. The other thing is it adds another layer of protection for your lower legs and allows me to move freely. They're quite comfortable. They're not very tight. You don't want them very tight. As I said, It's just an extra layer of protection. I always wear jeans, unlike some people who work with venomous snakes in flip-flops and shorts. It's been scientifically shown that if at least you're wearing denim jeans over your legs, a vast portion of the venom issued from a fang during a strike that connects is reduced. Most of the venom goes into the jeans and some goes into you, but it's better to have less in you than more in you. So again, this is an extra layer of protection. I'll put their website up so you can look into getting a pair for yourself if you're go out herping in the wild and all that fun stuff. These are great things to have if you work with venomous, any venomous around your home. These are also important extra protective gear. Of course you would want good leather shoes, but I don't have them on right now for modeling this because I'm really not working with anybody right now. But this is something that I wanted to show you. It's worth the investment. They're not expensive at all. Gives you extra protection, especially in the field when you're walking around and you don't know what's in the grass. So I use them here in the lair. I will probably take them to Australia with me when I go in the fall. So these are just very nice added protection for your lower legs. So Mrs. Viperkeeper is assuming her normal duties, and that's being a foster mom to the baby squams. She's done this with oodles and oodles of them. Some eat better than others, and others just sit there and look like stupid idiots with a foot in their mouth. This guy has already eaten 2 mouse drumsticks. This one has eaten 2 mouse drumsticks. This one hasn't eaten at all, has it?
Yeah, eaten all enough, yes.
Okay, so they're much more prone to strike when they're on the tabletop here. And unfortunately you have to make them mad, but these are squams and it doesn't take much to make them mad. Now eventually they will catch on and enjoy their food, but for now they just think we're just bothering them for the sake of bothering. Go ahead.
Turn this way.
Well, yes, but not so rapidly.
Open up. Get off the food. Open up. Open up.
Now the whole idea of this is to get their mouth open, stick the food in, and let go. So they then munch it down. Maybe a little bit weirded out by the camera. Oh no, we're gonna chuck this out. So then after they do that, we have to start again. You know, and people complain when these grow up to the point that they're feeding well and able to sell. People are like, oh, really? You want that much money for them? Well, yeah, because we spend hours and hours getting them feeding, getting them well started to the point where we feel confident that they'll do well in somebody else's hands, because it's not about what we charge for the animals. It's more about that the animal is a solid animal and it's going to do well in somebody else's hands. So this is what we do. This happens every other day.
Go the lights.
Well, how rude. So as I was saying, this is something that we do every other day until they're feeding regularly, because you know these guys are rather small little critters, as you can see. Oh, I disturbed him. Oh, he's like, oh, please put that big finger back for me to chew on. I much rather have that than this little mouse bit here. So this is what it takes to get little baby snakes feeding. It's infinitely more difficult than non-venomous snakes, because you want them to bite the food and you can't let them bite you. And it will become even more interesting when the taipans hatch.
Oh, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, here is a very rare sight. Yes, I know. This is Miss Purp. Miss Purp is the junkyard dog of the collection. Purps in general, and when I say Purps, it's short for Purpulomaculatus. This is Shore's pit viper, found in Southeast Asia, Indonesia. They live in primarily mangrove swamps. And if you go a few years back, when I visited Thailand, I actually encountered one of these in the wild. You can go back and see that footage. Well, at any rate, this is my captive-born Purp that I got from my friend Kim. These things are exceedingly difficult to get feeding to start, and they get pissed off at the slightest thing and continually try to bite the snot out of you. These have a particularly nasty bite, proteolytic and hemorrhagic type venom. They've been known to kill dogs pretty handily. Humans, I'm not so sure, but it would be a good idea if you had anti-venom if you got nailed with one of these. And getting nailed is quite easy. All you have to do is open the door and go in range. You know, I wonder how many bites happen in its range, because this snake is as irascible as the saw scales, and actually my saw scales are pretty easy going compared to this snake. This snake takes no prisoners. It will bite and enjoy every minute of it. It lives to bite people. So I don't know how many bites actually occur in its range, but if you walk past this thing in the wild, this thing will bite you. Whereas other snakes will probably just sit still and let you pass, or just go slithering off in the other direction. No, not this girl, not this species. They will bite the snot out of you. So, unfortunately, a mouse that I threw in yesterday, she just killed because she was annoyed because I wet her down because she was in the process of shedding. And, oh, hi. Last night, when I was doing last check after the lights were out, she was out trying to shed. But snakes will sometimes roll their shed skin on top of one another and make sort of a constriction band, and that's really, really tough to get off. Now, I called Lori in to help. Even with the forceps picking at the the roll of shed skin from the upper half of her body. I couldn't remove it and get it to the point where she could take over on her own, so it was necessary to restrain her and tear into the rolled up shed, and then I shed the remaining the remainder of the shed off, and in the process she was pretty mad and pooped all over me, and you can see some additional poop that came out after I put her back in her cage. She didn't consume the mouse, so she is not a happy camper right now. I think she's only hanging out on the outside is to lure me in so she can bite me after my assault last night. It wasn't really an assault. They don't realize that I'm helping them, but at any rate, that's why I think she's out, because she was in that cage up there, and once I moved her to larger quarters because she got big, she hid in her log back there until last night. We hadn't seen her at all in like 6 months' time. All we do is throw some food in, either live or frozen thawed. She'd whack it and eat it, and that was it. We never saw her, even if we came in at night, until last night when we caught her out. And to my surprise, she remained out this morning. So we're not going to do a tabletop perp. This was pretty much a tabletop perp in situ. Part of the thing about doing tabletops is you stress the animal out, and you take a chance of getting bit yourself, and not that she's any great threat as long as you stay out of her range. It's not like an elapid that goes shooting off. She'll just sit there and strike at you and not move, and she's totally easy to work with. If she wasn't so toxic and antivenom wasn't easily available, she would be your very good first starting pit viper from South Asia. They're easy to hook. Once they're feeding, they're pretty straightforward. The problem is, don't purchase a baby unless you're going to commit to force feeding them for at least 6 months, sometimes a little bit longer. So, any rate, this is Trimessurus purpulomaculatus. I know the label says Cryptolytrops as the genus. These snake taxonomists change genuses and species name like, you know, you change your underwear. You never can tell when things are going to change. So I'm not so apt to change the labels at a suggestion that we put it back into Trimessurus. Trimessurus are the Asian pit vipers. Trimessurus is sort of like a junk drawer of snakes that they can't figure out where to classify them. Everybody's got a junk drawer that we throw things into and we go to when we're looking for some oddities or things that we sort of just stored away because we don't really have a way of storing them in an organized fashion. So that's what Trimessurus is all about. Snakes get moved in and out of that junk drawer quite frequently, only to return at some later time. It's really very interesting to read the papers. You know, someone says that due to the amount of, you know, DNA overlap or separation will mean that they put them into one genus or another, back and forth. So we just call them Purps. We know what they are. They're all about biting the snot out of you. As you can notice during the video, she's struck many times and will continue to do so until she hits her mark. So anyway, we'll let Miss Purp relax, and we'll move on to some of the other tests that we have in the lair.